Welcome back, dear listeners, to Fright or Flight, the podcast where we rank, recap, and review every horror movie in a given franchise.
I'm Jumpscare Jared, the Fright of the podcast.
And I'm Frankie, I'm the Flight of the podcast.
And it's me, Bailey, your producer.
Yeah. Super producer Bailey.
Super producer. I don't know about that.
Also, one of the hosts of some of our sister podcasts.
That's true. I host Bookish and the Beast and some future podcasts that are going to be coming out later on, maybe 2024. We'll see.
Right. But this time, you're usually behind the scenes. We've had you on another show before. Why are you here doing this one this time?
Right. Previously, I was here for the Haunted Mansion episode because I love Disney's Haunted Mansion.
So what gives you the credentials to do Five Nights at Freddy's?
It's a special interest of mine. I really love Five Nights at Freddy's, and I always have since it came out.
Me and you have been watching videos about the lore of Five Nights at Freddy's for dang near a decade. Almost since the game came out.
Yeah, ever since Matt and Pat started covering it on Game Theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very excited. I had a really fun time with the movie. What did you guys think about it?
I had a blast. If I was talking to you about it earlier, where I feel like this is a movie from a fandom and it's made it to the big screen.
Yeah.
So if you guys have seen the Matt Pat videos, if you followed Markiplier play all the video games, if you're just a FNAF fan, I think this movie was made with you in mind.
Oh, absolutely. It's made for the fans. 100%.
I also really enjoyed it. I thought it was, after playing, the only game that I have played is the first game. I haven't fully finished it because I got to the fifth night and didn't beat it.
It's hard.
It's
scary.
It's scary, and the jump scares, they really get me. Even though my name is Jumpscare Jared, doesn't mean I don't get scared. Fun game, though, and fun movie. It all really encompassed everything that I would expect. But I don't know the lore, so I had a great time with it.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it, even though that you didn't know the lore beforehand, because I think a lot of people were expecting this movie to not make any sense to them if they didn't understand the lore.
Yeah,
so.
I do think it is, like you said, it is for the fans, and there's a lot of things in there for you. If you have kept up with the franchise, it definitely pays off. Yeah,
it pays off. It caters to the fans hardcore. But it's still a really fun movie to watch, even if you're not familiar with the video game franchise. So I had a lot of fun. It was very fulfilling.
It's doing a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
It's making bucks. And it's big deal, too, because, we're in a field right now where not every movie makes a crap ton of money. And this is a film that comes out, day and date on streaming.
Yep.
So despite it already being on Peacock, people still showed up and are breaking records at the box office.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So before we start talking about the box office in detail, I wanted to actually go back a few years and start talking about the initial production of the movie and how that went down. Because I don't know if you guys know, but this movie has been in production for almost forever. And fans have been waiting for it. And I don't know how many of the newer people coming in and watching the movie are aware of that.
I did not know that, but that makes it even more special to the fans, I'm sure.
Yes. So let's go back 10 years to August of 2014.
Man.
And that is when the first game came out. The original Five Nights at Freddy's game came out and blew up in popularity, as we all know. Less than 1 year later from when the game was released, it was announced by Warner Brothers that they were going to produce a movie for it. So that's 2015, April 2015. So
wow.
Like I said, not even a year.
Yeah, almost a decade ago.
Almost a decade ago. So there was some radio silence after that initial announcement from Warner Brothers. And it wasn't until January of 2017 that Scott Cawthon, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's, actually made a statement, and he said that they're going back to square one. Essentially, he scrapped the entire project, and from what we can tell from some of the quotes of him about this whole production predicament, he wasn't a fan of the screenplays that they were coming up with. It just didn't match up with his idea of the story and the characters and the lore. And he wanted to be much more upfront center in control about what they were going to produce as a movie. So in May 2017, the project was actually taken over by Blumhouse Productions, who made the movie for us.
Paid off, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. And in February 2018, Chris Columbus was announced to be the new director of the film. So Chris Columbus is very well known. He directed Gremlins, which is a similar, sort of like family-friendly horror movie kind of a
Love
vibe.
Gremlins.
He also did Home Alone and the first 2 Harry Potter movies. So Chris Columbus is definitely a very popular and well-loved director. Scott Cawthon wrote a new script in 2018 along with Kiera Breed-Risley. And Kiera Breed-Risley actually co-wrote the Five Nights at Freddy's novel series, the Silver Eyes, Fourth Closet, and the Fazbear Frights, I believe. She's helped co-write all of those, so they wrote a new script together. However, in November that same year, 2018, they scrapped it again.
Good gosh.
Yeah.
An indecisive man, I can tell.
Yes, very. So it's weird because he comes out with these games like almost once a year for this time period, but it's like he just kept scrapping and scrapping and scrapping these scripts.
And he's one of those video game developers, right? That's like the people who made not RuneScape, Sans.
Oh, Undertale.
Yeah, he's like Undertale, Stardew Valley, one of these like auteurs. There's just one person makes this whole big thing.
Yeah, he is. He's like the single creator of Five Nights at Freddy's, pretty much. So he wanted a lot of ownership, and I think also there was a lot of pressure to make something that was fulfilling for the fans. I think they did a good job. But, you know, it was hard because notoriously Five Nights at Freddy's, the lore does not make sense. It is all over the place. It's a bunch of spaghetti timelines. Nothing really matches up. So that's part of the fun of the lore, is trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But
That's really funny because I was asking Patrick, like, hey, like, so what did you think of the movie? And he goes, so after we watched the movie, I came home and I watched a video explaining the lore. And he's like, I'm not going to lie. That lore does not make any damn sense.
No.
And I was like,
No.
what do you mean?
It doesn't.
But I haven't watched anything about it, so I'm just like taking it.
So
at
there's
at the
a video.
word.
There's a video that I could recommend to you. I don't know if you want to watch it. It says a very short explanation of FNAF lore, and it was like 8 hours and 47 minutes long. Yeah.
Short. Oh.
And me and Bailey have been on this train for like a decade. Ever since Matt Pat on YouTube covered it.
I don't even know what's going on.
He's had like tens of videos, like
60, over 60.
60 videos. And it's just like him dissecting the video game, because there's so much lore in the games between like posters hitting in the background, or like if you take a screenshot and you raise all the brightness, there'll be like a hidden numbers that lead you to something else. There'll be like even on websites HTML code.
Yeah, it's ARG.
He'll leave codes.
Yeah.
Like this is stuff that like
It was wild for a while. It was awesome.
And it was super fun because like this guy, and there's a whole community online, and they're basically like sleuths, but for a video game.
Yeah.
That's really cool, but like as somebody who I'm not very much of a little details kind of I'm a big picture person.
Yeah.
So I take things at like face value and I'm like, yeah, cool. I'm not gonna dissect everything, and I hate that I'm not more detail oriented.
Yeah.
That's
because
okay.
this would not be a good franchise for me to like.
Well,
I guess
I
get
just watch
involved
Matt
in.
Pat's videos.
yeah, so we don't dissect any of it. We just
Like,
watch other
how?
people
Yeah, I let
explain.
somebody else do it.
It's kind of like watching a Saw movie every
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
Like they tell us, like, look at all this stuff we figured
Yeah,
out.
here's all these things, and
Yeah.
I think his wife did it. I don't know, but so it's very interesting stuff. It's really fun. I'm going to circle back to our timeline. We ended in 2018, where Scott Cawthon ended up scrapping. This is the second script that was scrapped, and we again have radio silence throughout. COVID-19, the epidemic, started in 2020. It's not until 2021 that it was announced that Chris Columbus had actually left the project. So this really awesome, beloved director leaves the project with Blumhouse, is not continuing to be part of it artistically in any way. So it's kind of a bummer. However, Jason Blum, who is the founder of Blumhouse, confirmed that the movie was still going to be worked on and that they were still going to come out with a product eventually. So in 21, Scott Cawthon allegedly wrote 10 different scripts before landing on the right one.
Bro, this man stresses me out, and I
Yeah.
don't even know.
Yeah.
I'm jealous that he can write 10 scripts like that. Like,
Yeah.
I wish I could get that productivity.
Sometimes I take way too long on one teeny tiny, like
Me
just
too.
a clip project,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm like,
And this man's over here writing 10 movie scripts.
I know, it's wild. And apparently the script that he ended up defining as the good script, the perfect script for the movie, and what we were delivered was the Mike script.
okay.
The one that focuses on Mike. So I wonder what the other scripts were about. I have no idea. I'm sure there's
see
so many
some of
different
it
things.
in
but
the future. Like,
maybe
some of
Knowing
that
this
is-
very brief history of this man, I'm assuming we'll get all over the place in the movies as well as the video games. So.
We'll definitely see.
Oh, man.
So, in October of 2022, Emma Tammy was announced to be the new director. Now, Emma Tammy is not quite as well known. I'm not familiar with the movies that she has directed before. I'm sure somebody is. But I think she was actually a great pick for this personally.
She did fantastic.
She did a really good job.
But also, we love women directors.
Yes, we love women directors, especially in the horror franchises. That's awesome. You don't see it often. She did a great job.
She did.
And then Emma Tammy also, along with Scott Cawthon and Seth Cuddeback, wrote the final screenplay. So they all came together to finalize everything. And again, Emma Tammy was announced in October of 2022. The main cast was announced in December. So they were moving very quick.
I'm not going to lie. Right? As soon as I saw that it was Josh Hutcherson, because I grew up loving him.
Right.
Thura, Richard Terbithia, all of these things. Oh, yeah. I was like, my heart, I can't take it. Because he's also, somebody had tweeted something really funny about it. And it was like, me trying to focus on the plot, but getting distracted by how beautiful Josh Hutcherson is. And I was like, me too. Like, he's so beautiful.
That's me, but with Matthew Lillard. I've always loved Matthew Lillard.
Oh my God.
Especially when he was Shaggy. I love
because you like Shaggy just
I love
independently.
Shaggy. I've always loved Shaggy. Yeah.
Matthew Lillard is just a godsend. I love him. I would literally die. I would probably cry if I met him.
Me too. Yeah, he seems very sweet.
He's such a sweetheart.
Yeah. He's got his own whiskey now. He's coming out with it.
I'll buy it just to buy it.
I'll have to try it.
All right, so the main cast was announced in December of 2022. Filming began on February 1st, 2023, and concluded on April 3rd. So that took maybe 2 months and some change.
What the hell?
For them to get everything recorded. And then in the movie released in October, at the end of October.
So that's a year. That's like director casted October. Casted in December. 2 months later, filming starts.
That's insane.
It's insane.
And then,
because it only took February to April. And the elaborate quality that they did this movie and
it's
the
really
set.
Good.
Yeah.
I feel like things
shook.
I feel like everything just kind of fell into place once they got the right script and the right director. I feel like everything just kind of
which makes me excited because as somebody who enjoyed this film, I'm thinking if they did that in a year.
Mm-hmm. I know.
They could have another one popped out a year's time from
now. But I want them to take their time to make a good product. I don't want them to feel rushed again with more scripts or anything like that. If they need to make script revisions, let them, in my opinion. So I'm really excited to see what they do in the future. If they do anything, I'm sure that they will. Because when this movie released, the budget to make this movie was around $25 million, right? Which is not a lot for a movie, but it is a lot for a Blumhouse production, right? How much was Saw when it was the budget for the first Saw movie?
The first Saw was $4 million.
$4 million, yeah. So compared to that,
is a big increase. I don't know if we've had a Saw movie with that big of a budget.
Exactly. So a lot of this budget went towards Jim Henson's Creature Shop, and we'll get to that later. But so it was $25 million to budget this movie. And just on Thursday and Friday, so release day and the preview release in the States, the box office hit $39.1 million. So they made their money back in one day, just in the States.
Holy fucking shit.
And then, as of when we're recording, the Sunday after the release, it's hit $78 million. Yeah. So that's the end of its opening weekend.
And it's tripled its budget.
And this makes it the third biggest horror movie opening of all time, following both It movies, and the biggest Halloween release for all films in theaters.
Whew.
Globally, it's made about $130 million just for opening weekend. That's 3 days plus previews.
Bro.
And it's already released on Peacock. It released on Peacock the same day that it released in theaters.
So people didn't even have to come out to see it. They could watch it from home.
Yeah.
And people still decided to go out.
I would watch it again a few times since I watched it in theaters because I enjoyed it that much. Me too. Yeah. I also want my niece to watch it, so I would sit down and watch it with her and stuff.
Yeah. So the movie is rated PG-13. that was kind of not problematic, but it was kind of an interesting decision for the fans, because a lot of the fans were told this is Scott Cawthon's fault. I will say he tweeted forever ago that like, oh, we're not going to hold back with all the gore and stuff. We're going to be serious about the horror elements and all that stuff. And people thought that he meant like, oh, it's going to be like NC-17, the rating for this movie. That's not true. It's PG-13. It does have some real horror elements in my opinion, but they made it friendly enough that their kid audience that are like, I don't know, 9, 10, 11 are going to be able to watch this movie and enjoy it and still get some scares, but it's nothing that's going to keep them up at night, hopefully.
Yeah. I respect that a lot personally, just because I know that most of the fans that are into this got into it at a young age.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, I think it's important to stay friendly to that demographic that is important to you. There's a lot of creators in general that have made things that are like, hey, this was made for kids. It's always going to be for kids. And some people brush against that just because they're adults now.
Right.
So they expect this thing to age with them.
Right. And I've seen quite a few people that are really upset that there's not more blood and gore. But in my opinion, I agree with the director, Emma Tammy, who has been quoted saying that there was no real need to go a super gory route. In all of the games, there's never a huge explicit amount of gore at all. There's only like pixels, and that's about it. Maybe some pixelated blood every once in a while, but really, there's not any gore in the games. The whole horror element is all in the ambiance, in the jump scares and things like that. And that's what they wanted to do in this movie. And when they did have some scary or gory moments, they wanted it to be a little bit more creative and fun. And I think that they really did a good job at doing that.
That's really crazy because, like, I never knew this was catered or, like, geared towards, like, children.
It wasn't initially.
It's like the first one, right? Like, this one came out, and then it was, like, The
Mascot
Secret Neighbor,
Horror.
and then it was Poppy Playtime, and it's all these things that this, like, kicked off.
Yes, exactly. FNAF is basically the birth of mascot horror games, at least in the modern era.
Yeah, all these indie games.
Initially, the only reason that this video game series was even created, Scott Cawthon was making Christian-based video games. And one of his characters that was in the game, so people kept commenting about how creepy it looked. And then he turned around and was like, well, I'm going to make a really creepy game, I guess. Yeah. And he just did that on a whim, and it worked out for him. And it just so happened that his fan base became a bunch of children. So he wasn't intending it to be for children, but I think it's just the fact that it is horror games, but the worst thing that can happen to you is like a silly little jump scare. Literally, I mean, you guys have played the games. You've seen the jump scares that are like, ooh. So it's very silly.
It is silly, but I guess in my brain, because I play horror games a lot for funsies, my brain, and as an adult, I'm like, oh, this is just a horror game, like not like like. So I don't know. I just wasn't expecting to see so many like teens and children there.
I mean, when we went to the theater, it was filled with a bunch of kids.
Oh yeah, it's packed. It's mostly children that like these things, and I blame YouTube and their parents not censoring the stuff that they watch. But whatever. Of all things, FNAF is not the worst thing that they could be watching.
No, it's
However, have you ever played FNAF 4, the fourth game?
No, I've only played the first one.
It's It's the most terrifying game to me personally.
I want to play. We should definitely play more.
Yeah. But they sell like little plushes of
everywhere.
At like GameStop.
Yeah, and they sell out. They're popular. Yeah, so it's very, very well loved. However,
beloved.
Yes, beloved. I'm gonna go to the reviews now because the reviews are out on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics rated it an average of 26% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is awful. That's genuinely terrible. For context, the Scream movies, the originals, or the Scream movie that came out in 2022 received I want to say it was around a 70% from critics, which is really high for a horror movie. And the original Scream, I think, had like a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, something along those lines. However, the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes for the new FNAF movie is overwhelmingly positive. It's got an 89% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, which is really high. For context, the same Scream 2022 had only an 80% audience rating, or an 82%, and the original Scream had an 80% audience rating. So it's got a higher audience rating than both of those Scream movies at the moment. So I didn't check anything else. That was just the first thing that I thought of.
Interesting.
So, which is so happy for me to hear. that people are loving this movie.
Audiences love it. I mean, my TikTok feed is all just people talking about the FNAF movie and how much they love it.
One thing I hate is that people will take critics like ratings at value, and I'm like, that does not qualify anything because personally, like, movies that are deemed shitty by critics or some of the movies that I hold near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
Or even the movies that don't make it to the Oscars. Like I said, like, horror movies are never really ever considered for those big award shows. So I'm like, whatever. I don't really. So go see it anyway, despite what the critics say.
Go see it anyway.
So good.
It's so good. It is amazing. The audience loves it. I think the reason that the critics dislike it so much is just because it is a little bit corny. It plays on some nostalgia factor, I think, for not just fans, but also people who have gone to Chuck E. Cheese as a child when they had animatronics. And the story, if I'm being honest, is a little wackadoodle. It is a little silly. It doesn't necessarily, the story doesn't exactly wrap up all of its loose ends. It leaves a lot of things open. It doesn't answer, in my opinion, it leaves you asking more questions at the end than the questions that it answers at the beginning.
Okay.
So nobody really knows what happens after the end of the movie, why certain things happened or anything, but that's very typical of a FNAF game. So all of the fans were kind of expecting that for the movie. But I will say, technically as a script, it's not the most clean, right?
Right. I agree with you. While I was watching the movie, I was a little bit worried about, like, how is this going to come off to people who aren't familiar with the franchise? Because for a fan, I think it's fantastic. If you're not familiar with all the stuff, I don't know how well it lands. I know, Geraldine, you said that you quite enjoyed it.
I did. And I think my boyfriend also said it was pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's very enjoyable.
And he's not really ever watched anybody play it. He's never really watched me play it because he's a fake fan. And, this is not something that he would go out and see without me asking him to go with me. But he did, and he enjoyed it. So I think that he would probably be excited a little bit to see sequels and stuff.
Yeah, I think it's very palatable. It's very easy to get attached to the characters and the animatronics, of course, and it leaves me wanting to see more.
Me too.
I think everybody else is going to feel that way too.
I think one good thing about it not tying everything up is that it does leave so much room for sequels. So I think that's always... Because to me, that led up with, there's going to be more. And I was okay.
Oh, yeah. And it's such a smash hit in the box office right now, they'd be stupid not to make sequels. But luckily, Jason Blum and Emma Tammy both seem very enthused to make sequels in the future.
Very
fun.
But
the very first thing that I want to talk about now is what I think the most important part of Five Nights at Freddy's, the animatronics.
Hell yeah.
They are the key to FNAF and its success in every way, in my opinion. Some would argue that the reason the games even became popular is because of that sense of nostalgia of seeing those animatronics at Chuck E. Cheese and Showbiz Pizza that terrify you because they're so uncanny and weird, but you also kind of like them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I feel about these two. So
I wasn't as fully terrified seeing them on the big screen as I am seeing them in the game.
Me neither. And I think it's just because on the big screen they have so much personality, whereas in the game they're mostly standing still and very ominously. So you get that a little bit in the movie, but they are kind of played up to be a little bit more, I don't know, affectionate or just something that you can really latch onto, I think, as a character. And I really like that. They add a lot of character to the animatronics, but they're still spooky. They are still spooky. But if you want the real scary animatronics, you're going to have to get into the games for now. I think in the future, we're going to get gradually spookier and spookier as we go on. I think that's the intention. But the animatronics in this movie were made by Jim Henson's Creature Shop. So we all love Jim Henson's Creature Shop. Of course, we know them from the Muppets, but they also created The Dark Crystal, Labyrinth, and of course, The Muppets. Ugh.
I absolutely love Jim Henson. All of these movies were like pivotal in my childhood.
I love them. They also, interestingly enough, I don't know if you've ever watched this movie, but The Creature Shop was also a huge part of The Country Bears.
I did watch that movie.
I love that movie.
I also love that movie.
You know what's so funny about The Country Bears movie? It's based off of the Country Bear Jamboree in Disney World, which is an animatronic theme park attraction with a bunch of animatronic singing bears.
I don't want to see that in person though. I don't really like animatronics IRL. They freak me out.
I understand, but I would love to see that in real life. But I just thought it was so funny that technically, like 15, 16 years ago, the Creature Shop literally made singing animatronic bears into a movie.
That is so funny.
This isn't the first rodeo.
No, it's not.
A full circle.
They're
So
like,
that was really fun.
dust it off. We're doing it again, boys.
And now I have a clip of Emma Tammy, the director, talking about working with Jim Henson's Creature Shop for this movie.
And tell me about the process of working with the Jim Henson Creature Shop and bringing these animatronics to life and what that was like on set.
You know, the animatronics are like a whole other cast in our film. They really are. So we knew they needed the utmost amount of attention, and no one is more equipped to have brought these creatures to life than Jim Henson's workshop, and we were so lucky to have them on board. They are really masters at creating things that are both cuddly, weird, scary, and unique, and the animatronics needed to be all of those things, and they were super psyched to also be a part of the FNAF world. So it was awesome.
Yeah, Jim Henson's creations, like Elmo, quite weird himself.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's really
so
fun.
fun.
I love how she refers to them as cuddly, cute, weird, and scary, pretty
Yes.
much. And I love that. That's exactly what they are. I would give them a hug, but they also scare me and are possessed by dead
I
children.
saw a clip on TikTok of like, you know, the set, and you see all of them there, and they would go up and hug the.
Yeah. I've got the TikTok, actually, to show Jerilyn real quick. It's a clip from when Dawko and a couple other YouTubers were able to tour the set and meet the animatronics one-on-one.
Oh. So cute.
I thought it was so cute. But that was actually my first viewing of the animatronics before we even got into the movie, and I was so impressed with how much emotion and movement that they got. And I don't know how much you guys know, but there's actually multiple different versions of the animatronics. There's actual animatronic versions of them. Foxy is always an animatronic because of his dilapidated state, so he's always an animatronic, but in that particular video and throughout all of the more major movement scenes, there's actually people inside of the costumes.
I did know that.
Yeah.
'Cause, I saw on the credits where it said puppeteers, and I was like, I imagine they have to be in there to kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
I always
And-
thought that's so cool. Like
Yeah.
watching like the Muppets and watching like Big Bird, like
Yeah.
or Snuffleupagus. I think it's like several people
Yeah.
controlling Snuffleupagus.
And then from what I can understand, there's people inside of the suits, but there's also other puppeteers that are helping with the animations of the face and the eyes
This
and everything
is
like
so
that.
cool.
And it's so well done and it's so seamless. You can't tell any animatronic from another. Foxy is the only one who's only an animatronic, like I said. So he
Interesting.
was puppeteered by 6 different people at times, all at the same time. To get his movement. You said that Patrick was confused about Foxy?
He was confused about why he looked the way that he did. I was like, I don't know. I guess it's because he's a pirate.
So Foxy is the only animatronic who's been out of order. So that was the idea. Obviously, Freddy's Pizzeria has been defunct for probably about 20-ish years now within the movie. However, before it went defunct and closed, Foxy was already out of order. He had already had some errors, so that it's supposed to look like that he was already kind of
Okay.
falling apart.
It makes sense. That does make some sense.
Whereas the other main animatronics were kept together pretty well. So I think it's just a reference to if you ever went to Showbiz Pizza or Chuck E. Cheese, the animatronics tend to have issues very often.
Oh my god, yes.
So he's one of those particular things.
So where are you guys? We just watched a video, you know, a bunch of people watching them, and they gave them a hug.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
If you guys met these, would you be welcoming to a hug?
My heart would be racing and like at an insane beat.
Yeah.
I might have to take some CBD to like be calm about it,
Yeah.
but I would probably do it.
These ones in real life, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if they were actually supposed to be like, if I'm in the Five Nights at Freddy's world and they are the Five Nights
Yeah.
at Freddy's
No.
animatronics,
No.
no,
No.
they've got dead bodies inside
Right.
of them. I don't
Yeah.
want to hug them, dog.
That's my biggest question. How did they not? They're like, oh, that's where he hid the kids, and I'm like, how did they not smell them?
They did. It's mentioned frequently how much they stank, actually. That's in the games if you find certain things.
Okay.
It's mentioned that, like, the police never searched there and never looked for the bodies inside of the animatronics, but after the missing children's incident, a lot of parents started complaining about the way that the animatronics smelled. So yeah, it's grody, it's gross.
That's
but-
so sad.
Yeah.
It is sad.
Oh, that's so nasty too.
Yeah, it is. But
Imagine
that's-
just trying to have pizza and you're like, bro, why you fucking stank in here?
yeah. So there's even grosser things that happen later on in the series. I'm excited to see what they actually show.
Now I need to know.
The scooping room, maybe we'll see. But I wanted to ask both of you a question. I know that you've both played the original video game briefly, but how familiar were you guys with the animatronics before watching this movie?
Like the actual ones in the game in the movie itself.
Yeah.
I mean, I barely knew their names. But after I think the last time we recently played it, where we played it for the podcast, you had mentioned their names, and I was like, oh, okay. And
Yeah.
I didn't know that Chica was always a girl. I was like, I don't know these things, but now I kind of knew that going in, and that was about the extent of my knowledge.
Yeah, I've learned a bit over the past month. You know, I know that we got 5 of them, and we got Golden Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy.
Right.
It also took me a while. I didn't know which one was which for a long time, and I didn't know like Chica's always in the kitchen, and I didn't know Bonnie was a rabbit. I thought Bonnie
rabbit.
was a hippo,
A rabbit.
and that Chica.
Why would Bonnie be a hippo with giant rabbit ears?
It looks like hippo ears to me.
Have you ever seen hippo ears?
Yeah.
They're like super tiny.
And I thought Chica was a
They're
duck.
literally like teeny tiny ears for hippos.
I will say Chica does look like a duck, though.
Is she not a duck?
Apparently not. Apparently she's a
It's not.
chicken.
She's a chicken.
That's interesting because I literally thought she was a duck.
In my
but
heart, she's still a duck.
A lot of people did think that she was a duck.
My
at
head
first.
canon, she's a duck, and then Bonnie's a hippo.
But no, Scott Cawthon.
Why a hippo?
What? So you're okay? You're okay with Chica being a duck, but you're not.
That
They're like
stylistically
this-
it looks like a duck. It's
so
yellow,
and
dude.
Bonnie stylistically. What colors are hippos?
Gray.
Blue, and so is Bonnie.
Bonnie's, yeah.
Bonnie's-
Hippo colored.
Bonnie's
Yeah.
blue.
There is a purple hippo much later in the game, and it's not very important.
I do like that hippo.
Yeah, you do like that hippo, and he looks completely different from Bonnie, doesn't
Looks
he?
just like Bonnie.
No, he doesn't.
I thought it was little Bonnie at
Oh
first.
my god. Okay. Well, since I knew you guys didn't know a lot about the animatronics, I went ahead and made a little bit of a profile section for each of them.
Cool.
So first and foremost, we're going to talk about Freddy Fazbear, the name, the myth, the legend, and the lead singer of our group.
He's the har.
Yeah, har. Yeah.
So I was confused because I know that in the movie we see Foxy running down, and Foxy also makes sound as well.
yeah.
I did not know that there was a difference, and I was waiting on like I thought it was Freddy who made the like humming sound, the blub blub blub.
No,
I thought
so.
that
That's
was
actually
Freddy.
Foxy. No, Foxy is the one that goes dum diddly dum 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 dum. That's Foxy.
Okay.
Freddy is the one that goes hor in the background.
I literally
He just has
never
little
knew.
laughs, and he goes hor.
Oh, so that's the one that's like,
Yes, he's the one laughing in the background. Yeah,
ew, I hate it.
yeah.
Yeah, you guys can actually watch our gameplay. I think by the time this is up, maybe it'll be on Fright Risk.
Yeah, on
if
our
you guys
new
wanna-
channel, Fright Risk.
So if you want to watch me and Geraldine play Five Nights at Freddy's, it'll be up there.
Check it out on YouTube. Yeah,
It's gonna be funny because we get scared a lot.
yeah, it's great. I had to help them a lot, of course. But so Freddy Fazbear is the big one. Like we said, the name of the business. He and Foxy are the only animatronics that are present in every single game.
Oh,
Besides, technically, Foxy is not in Security Breach, but Roxy is kind of taking his place. So that's kind of a wiggle room there. The name Fazbear could be a reference to Fozzie Bear. Fozzie, who was named after Faz Fazakas, the man who created the animatronic mechanism that allowed Fozzie to wiggle his ears. I just find that really interesting since technically Freddy was probably named after a Muppet by Jim Henson and his company, and then was created in real life by Jim Henson's Creature Company. I thought that was a really nice full circle moment.
circle of life, baby. We love it.
And then we have Bonnie the Bunny, who is the guitarist. Bonnie is frequently noted to be the most aggressive out of all of the animatronics due to him being the very first member of the band to start moving on night one.
That's so true. He does.
Scott Cawthon, the creator himself, considered Bonnie to be one of the most, if not the most scary animatronic in the entire series.
I agree.
Yeah. He stated that Bonnie gave him multiple nightmares during the development of the first game. And he said that one night he dreamt that Bonnie was in the hall outside of his bedroom.
Ew.
Which caused Scott to jump up from his bed and rush to hold the door shut. After finding that the door was locked, he believed that Bonnie was about to attack. Because in the game, the doors stop working when Bonnie or Chica are inside the office with you. So then he woke up and all of it was a dream. But a lot of the fans think that those nightmares are what were the inspiration for Five Nights at Freddy's 4 because it takes place in a child's bedroom having to fight nightmare animatronics from coming into your bedroom. So that's why it's the spookiest game to me. It's very scary. I can barely watch it because it's very... Ooh,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
That's a good thing to know. You know, me and Geraldine have considered making like a little short horror film in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and just like I had never considered that. You know, obviously Scott Cawthon here got nightmares over his own creation.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, he did.
It's
Yeah.
a possibility.
Yeah, so he found them spooky too. We have Chica, who is the backup singer in Food Extraordinaire. In the later game called Ultimate Custom Night, there is a withered Chica who is just like a prototype version of Chica who's very old and dilapidated. And they all have voice lines in this game. And her voice line is, "I was the first. I have seen everything." So from there, it's been interpreted that the child that was killed and inhabits Chica, possesses her, was the first child killed during the missing children's incident. So that's some interesting lore about her.
That is also very sad.
Yeah, it is very sad. And then we also have Carl the Cupcake, who is Chica's little cupcake friend. He, in the original games, was never actually like a character at all. It wasn't until FNAF 4 when he became like a nightmare image of like clamping in your face. Yeah, but he didn't have a name for the longest time, but fans started referring to him as Carl the Cupcake, and eventually it was adopted into canon by Scott Cawthon. And it's kind of assumed that Carl is more of an extension of Chica than his own sentient entity. We don't really think that Carl is possessed. He's just kind of a part of Chica.
That's really funny because Patrick made a joke about that. He was like, "Bro, imagine being killed and only like being made into the cupcake." And I was like, "Yeah, that would be sad. Like just only part of you.
Well,
just imagine it's like the head of some kid."
Yeah.
The cupcake has the most mobility though, out of all of them. So.
No, Foxy does.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Foxy be running.
Which Foxy is our next one. Of course, we already talked about how he was the first animatronic to kind of stop working, and he's out of order in the original game. That's why you have to keep checking on him, because his curtains are closed, right? And it says out of order, but eventually his curtains open, and you have to keep an eye on him. And he runs incredibly fast. And I just learned earlier today, actually, that there's some lore. I don't know how canonical this is, but it's what everybody thinks is hinted to happening. Chica is almost always seen with her mouth open. Mm-hmm. Freddy usually hides in the shadows. Bonnie is the most aggressive, and Foxy runs really fast. And that's how people think that the children died during the missing children's incident, which is Chica was screaming, Freddy was hiding, Bonnie was fighting, and Foxy was running.
That's so sad.
It is really sad.
I don't like it.
Yeah, but it does add a lot of character to these animatronics who didn't have any character in the first game.
Yeah,
honestly.
and it's in the video game. Honestly, it's still just such a small like way to give some characterism and mannerisms to the characters.
Yeah.
And just the small little ways of how because they in the video game they don't all act the same.
No, they don't.
all have
they have their own quirks. Chica likes to hang out in the kitchen and bang pots and pans.
Yeah.
And that's actually where we get to see Chica kill somebody, is in the kitchen. And
So
then
fun.
Bonnie loves to hang out in his supply closet, and that's where he gets to kill somebody, is in his supply closet. So, that's some really interesting stuff there. A lot of people believe that making the animatronics real for this movie, like physical animatronics, which there are, and then also animatronics which ironically have people stuffed in them to act, was not only ironic but kind of blasphemous, because it seems like it's kind of inviting something terrible to happen in real life. People have been really worried about it. It's kind of like the Jurassic Park effect. Did we learn nothing from Jurassic Park?
What do you mean?
that's just like a joke online. People are, because there's always like this whole like, oh, we took mammoth DNA and we're gonna make a mammoth in real life and clone it and stuff like that. And people are
I
like, did we
see.
learn nothing from Jurassic Park?
I see.
Yeah.
I can see the concern there because I
Yeah.
recently learned that after the first Scream movie, these people were like fascinated by it and they made their own movie killing people IRL.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can.
So it plays off that
it
idea.
It can inspire that, but that doesn't mean that it necessarily like the stories are. It's like violent video games.
Yeah.
Just because you play violent video games does not mean that every person's going to go out and be violent. Just
No.
because some people like to like crash cars in GTA or beat people up and stuff doesn't mean they're going to actually do
Right,
it IRL.
right.
You know. I
Exactly.
don't know. I just think it's silly to be that of like. I mean, I can see the concern, and I'm not like saying that they shouldn't be concerned. Like, have that concern, listen to it, pay attention to it because it means something.
Yeah.
But like, don't live so much there because then it's just gonna drive you crazy.
Right.
Because I mean, I think it's really cool, but there's also people who are afraid of things that are scary in general
Yeah.
too. They're like, oh, you have all these scary things in your house. You're inviting this bad energy in. Like,
That's not how
bitch,
it works.
no.
No. But fans make jokes all the time that like, oh, they can't make a real Freddy Fazbear's Pizza because then a bunch of kids are going to get murdered. Oh, they've made the real animatronics now. It's only a moment of time before they start acting on their own, getting real quirky at night.
Please God, no.
I actually have a clip about Emma Tammy talking about some ways that the animatronics are a little quirky.
Fuck no.
But I wanted to ask you, Emma, what do you think is so unintentionally creepy about animatronics?
Ooh, I think it lies in the space between them being alive and not alive. We are kind of controlling them, whether they've been programmed or in our case, we had puppeteers, doing all of the animations off screen. But every now and then they'll do something on their own or like an imperfection will just pop up and they've got a personality all to themselves. And I think it's that like soul, for lack of a better word, that they end up inhabiting that is so eerie and amazing and wild and at times friendly. It's all the things and you're always on your toes because you don't know what side of it you're going to get.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Kill him dead now.
But so I wonder how quirky the animatronics were getting on set.
Yeah. What do you think you could say on set?
No.
If like one of them started, moving a little bit.
I'll piss my pants right then and there. And then everyone will be like, oh, she pissed her pants. And I'll be like, but what about the animatronic?
Yeah.
Oh, God, no.
So that's most of the animatronics covered and how silly, goofy, scary they are. So now we can move on to the real life actors. We have Josh Hutcherson, who plays Mike Schmidt, who is the protagonist of the first game. Emma Tammy also had some very nice things to say about him in a clip, so I'll go ahead and get that played real quick.
But to turn to the human element, as you mentioned, this is a very human story. And could you talk about, for instance, what Josh brought to the project as our heroic security guard?
Yeah, I mean, Josh is like such an authentic performer, and I think he really looks to find the truth in every character and every situation. And the fact that he embodied the role of Mike in such a grounded way, I think really helps us as the audience like traverse this wild, crazy world through the eyes of someone that we can really relate to. And he just did an incredible job. He also, coming from being a child actor himself, was just completely connected to the actor who played his younger sister, Abby. So the two of them had amazing chemistry, and I think that that's really the heart of what this movie is that relationship.
So I love that clip, just talking about how Josh Hutcherson and Piper Rubio, who plays Abby, his younger sister, got along really well on set. Josh Hutcherson did such a great job as Mike. He was very compelling, very fun, very relatable. Just the entire time, I thought he did a fantastic, amazing job.
I agree.
Piper
really
Rubio, I think, also did a really good job. Child actor. She wasn't weird or.
I'm always
awkward
impressed
for
by
me.
good child actors. I'm always like, how do they do it?
She did a
Good
great
children.
job.
It's
Yeah.
hard to like get kids to like focus.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, to like have them do a full length feature film like this and to like stay in character.
Right.
How do they do it?
Yeah,
I can't
exactly.
do it.
Yeah.
I think I have full faith that my niece could do it. She's so theatrical. I would love to make like horror films and put her in them.
Right.
Yeah.
Both as like a kid being scared and the kid scaring people.
So you want to traumatize your niece?
Yes, I do. Essentially.
We also have Elizabeth Lale, who plays Vanessa, a police officer.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting characters in the entire movie. Later on, it's revealed that she is actually the daughter of a mass serial killer.
I was shook by that.
Yeah.
I was very shook.
Everybody was shook by that. Vanessa is a character in the most recent Security Breach game. Nobody really knew why she was super significant other than she was a security officer and kind of an antagonist. But in this movie, they directly link her to the big bad William Afton by saying that she is his daughter, definitively in the movie series.
So my biggest concern with this storyline, like first of all, you know your daddy's a killer.
Yeah.
You become a police officer, which is already whatever. You're an accomplice of murder, babe.
Oh, she definitely is.
knows, yeah.
I think it's pretty obvious. They never stated overtly, but I think it's pretty obvious that Vanessa has been the one cleaning up for all of the murders that's been happening at Five Nights or at Freddy's.
She's a part of it for sure.
Yeah,
Trauma.
definitely. Yeah, we see. I mean, there's a moment where, of course, there's a break-in at Freddy's. People get killed. Vanessa is the one that finds it because she comes up to Mike later that day and is like, "Hey, there was a break-in. Didn't you know that?" But when Mike goes back to the break-in, there's no blood anywhere besides on the security door. But the rest of the blood has been washed away. So I really do think that Vanessa has been going there every single day, making sure that nobody's dead. And if they are, she cleans it up and takes care of it.
That's so weird.
So she's an accomplice, absolutely.
yeah, it's the family
but she was also
secret.
groomed into doing that. So-
But also, I mean, she became a cop, I guess, to kind of keep
Yeah.
that stuff under wraps.
Yeah.
Because
But is
that's
she
what they
even
tend to do.
Is she even a real cop? We don't know.
Oh,
We don't know.
We
Yeah.
don't know.
So-
But I love Elizabeth Lale. She was in the You series from
Oh,
Netflix, and she's just a great actress. She was also in another like quirky, like not amazing film, but I liked it a lot. It was a lot of fun. Called Countdown. It was about like an app that tells you when you're going to die.
This is the second time we've
Oh.
talked about that film on
No,
the podcast.
we talked about a different one.
Oh, this is another one.
Yeah, Time. I think it was In Time with Amanda Seyfried and Justin Timberlake. That one was another countdown to when you're gonna die. But those people were buying time. It was about like
Okay.
different classes. This one was strictly about like an app on your phone, and some people just die sooner than others.
Okay.
I see.
Very fun movie
Interesting.
though.
Yeah,
Very fun.
Yeah, but she did a fantastic job. She was like, you want to feel connected to her and feel bad about her. You can see that she definitely has an internal emotional struggle, but at the same time, you're like, something's a little fishy. Something's a little fishy about her. And she gets stabbed by her own father at the end of the movie and is left in a coma. And we're not entirely sure how it's going to turn up. Is she going to become like another murderer in the future, or is she going to turn good completely and be on Mike's side? It's kind of up in the air. We don't know how it's going to go, but I'm excited to see what they do with her in the future.
I'm excited as well. I mean, given the iconic role that just came out of this movie, that I'm assuming is a reference directly to the video games, don't know, was the "I always come back" line.
Yes.
I was curious about this because I'm like, okay, so does he die and like come back to life? Die and come back to life? Is he like alive theoretically? Like what is this in reference to? Because I'm curious personally, because I do have a theory that if he does come back, what if he snags his daughter from the coma, puts her in an animatronic suit?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue that might be why Vanessa is so afraid of her father, is because she knows that all these kids were put into animatronic suits.
Bro.
So she's worried if she doesn't obey her father, she might be shoved into one too.
So stressful.
Could you imagine, literally, you know your dad killed a bunch of kids and you have to grow up as a child knowing that he could do the same thing to you?
You know what?
Terrifying.
My biggest question is, how'd she make the cut?
Yeah.
One of the wicked parts of the film for me, or the most wicked, is when you see during all the flashbacks, Garrett?
Yeah, Garrett.
Mike's
younger
brother
brother.
is holding like this the toy airplane.
Yeah.
And then later towards the end of the film, you see a picture of a young Vanessa
With
and
her father.
What toy is she holding?
Yeah.
The
That
red airplane. It makes your gut drop.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. That was like a trophy
Yeah.
that Afton took and gave to his daughter of a kid that he presumably
That makes me
killed.
have questions though. Like, we don't see Garrett in the movie. Did he just get killed and he was just like a killed kid?
We don't
or
know.
is he hidden? Because I know that Patrick said during his investigation after watching the movie, he said that he learned that there were many different many different restaurants. So
Yes.
was he an animatronic in a different one? I'd like to
Maybe.
know. I
Yeah,
have questions.
we've got some theories that we can talk about towards the end. that
Oh,
I'll bring
okay.
up. Nothing's set in stone, so we don't know what's going to happen. Scott Cawthon is well known to backtrack a lot on his lore.
Yeah, he'll retcon things.
And retcon or just change names and genders and things like that. And that might be what's happening here. So
Interesting.
we'll see. But to finish off our main cast, we have to talk about Matthew Lillard. Yeah, he plays Steve Raglan. Oh, I'm sorry, William Afton. Dun dun dun. Our big bad. Now, I knew going into the movie that Matthew Lillard, it was assumed, that he was going to play the bad guy. He pretty much confirmed in early TikToks and things like that with fans that he was going to be playing William Afton, the serial killer. But I can only imagine that a lot of people went into this movie maybe not knowing that he was going to be the big bad at the end. How did you feel?
I didn't. Well, you can kind of tell sometimes when movies do like the
Yeah.
fun predictability thing.
Yeah.
So whenever it was revealed, I was still like, oh, no, not Matthew Lillard. But I also was like, okay, that kind
Yeah.
of makes sense, like
Yeah.
how he reacted
It's
earlier.
not a
So
huge secret.
it's not a huge
No.
secret. It did come full circle. But as soon as I reacted like that, Patrick did not give me a moment to breathe, and he was like, I saw that coming. I was like, shut up, dude. Yes,
It's
I
Matthew
did,
Lillard.
but I also didn't want to believe it.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
there for the hype.
But he
Yeah.
does so well. He does so well playing any character.
Love
that
him.
He
so.
really does. He does such a good job. So now we don't know how the character of William Afton suddenly became a career coach named Steve Raglan. Maybe it's a false identity thing. Maybe his police officer daughter helped him fake some records and give him a fake name. We don't know. But lore-wise, it's a little muddy. But at the end, we get William Afton, so it doesn't matter. So Afton is by far one of the most important characters in the entire FNAF game series. However, we don't actually get his name in any of the games from FNAF 1 through 3, I think. He's not mentioned by name. In the first game, he's not mentioned at all. There's like... The only way that you know that there's any kind of lore in the first FNAF game is that every once in a while there will be newspapers on the wall that will glitch in. And they have a missing children's incident, like 5 children went missing at the Five Nights or at the Freddy's Pizzeria. And that's it. That's all the lore in the first game. In the second game, there's some mini games that show a purple guy. It's very pixelated, like an old Atari game. But it shows a purple pixelated guy killing kids. Okay, that's our big bad, right? In the third game, we get more mini games, and there's also this weird yellow rabbit walking around. So the third game, for Geraldine, she doesn't know, it's actually a haunted house based off of the Freddy's Pizzeria. So it has a bunch of hallucinations that are not real and supposed to look like really gross, gory animatronics. However, one of them is real, and it's a yellow Springlock Bonnie suit. So that is our first official introduction to William Afton in the games, but we don't actually get his name or his backstory until the books come out, the Silver Eyes trilogy.
That's crazy.
Have you read
Yeah.
any of the books?
I have not. I'm too scared to read them. However, Matt Pat reads them for me.
Okay.
So, but apparently this movie is actually more similar to the Silver Eyes book than it is to the video games. So that's really interesting. There's a graphic novel out. I might check that out.
Okay.
But-
because I would be kind of interested to like read the little books. I don't know how many there are. I imagine there's probably a lot between
There's
the
a
So,
lot.
so there's a lot of books. It depends on what series you're reading. There's the Silver Eyes trilogy, which is 3 books, which all have graphic novels now, I believe. There's the Fazbear Frights, which are short stories that are kind of related, kind of unrelated to the stories, but have a bunch of spooky animatronics in it, killing kids. And then there's Tales from the Pizzaplex, which are like a continuation of the Fazbear Frights, but take place specifically around the Pizzaplex in Security Breach. So there's a lot. It's very confusing, but the Silver Eyes trilogy seems to be kind of what they're mostly inspired by for the movie
Oh
series.
man, I don't want to go to Books a Million or Barnes and Noble during this.
I will say I'm a bit biased. So if anybody out there listening to this wants some more lore, I like the way I did it. Just watching the Matt Pat video.
Yeah,
and there's
it's
a
the way to go.
playlist. There's a playlist that goes from like his first one to his latest one, and his channel's called Game Theory. And you can just go there and he'll lay it out for you video by video. Every like few videos, he'll do like a new timeline. So he goes back and puts it all like, so you can see chronologically how things happened.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's all still up in the air, but MatPat is pretty much the definitive, like, this is what the lore is right now. So if you want to know what the lore is right now, you got to watch MatPat's videos and figure it out.
Okay.
But something that I thought was really interesting about about William Afton being introduced in this movie is when you finally see him as the big bad in his big yellow bunny suit. He has a knife and he does a really cool motion with it that actually mirrors something Ghostface does in the very first Scream movie, which if you know, you know. Matthew Lillard was Stu Macher, one of the Ghostface killers in the very first movie. So that was a really nice
That's a
nod.
good catch because I didn't even notice that.
I've got some
That's
gifts
so fun.
that hopefully we can include on the video, but I've got them here for Geraldine to see.
That's wonderful.
The combination, you get that nice motion. Yeah. So that is
So
awesome.
satisfying.
And of course, there is a lot more lore and characters that we could talk about in the movie and what they might mean, but we're going to not delve super deep into that so we don't have a 3-hour long podcast episode. But I will play a clip for you guys real quick about lore and theories and how they implemented them into the movie.
All right.
Did you find yourself diving as much into maybe the fan theories and all the kind of crowdsourced lore that's been built around this franchise?
Yeah, that is so vast. So vast. And Scott Cawthon, the creator of the game, was very specific about, wanting to link this movie to the first game. And I was getting the direct download from him in terms of what elements of the lore we were, going to be folding into our story for the movie. And so I did dip into that fan space a little bit, but I also tried to stay focused on the elements that I knew we were diving into.
So I just really appreciate Emma Tammy talking about how Scott Cawthon wanted this to strictly just be game one or first book of the Silver Eyes trilogy and not go too deep into anything else, because in my opinion that just made it a little bit more of a neat little bow. They didn't make it too messy with introducing more animatronics, more characters, more lore, or anything like that. They kept it very, very straight and narrow, and I appreciate that for
Me too.
a FNAF
Focused
movie.
idea, focused vision.
Yes, very focused, and it's not perfect, but it is really great compared to how we usually get our lore. Cherry picking. All right.
I do like it.
One of the things that I really love about the movie is that there are so many Easter eggs for the fans, and we know that Scott Cawthon specifically wanted there to be many for the fans to be able to pick up and choose and find throughout the film. I'm sure that there's so many that haven't even been found yet. There's too many to talk about, but I did pick out a few for us to talk about today. So Matthew Lillard as William Afton was noted as giving the briefing for the security guard position to Mike over the phone. So he was like, hey, you're going to go in. The electricity's kind of shoddy. You're going to be doing all this stuff. That is a huge reference to one of the first notorious theories that MatPat and all of the community ever did, and that was the purple guy is phone guy theory. So for people who may not know, like you two, I'm going to show you the original William Afton, which is just a few purple pixels. And as you can see, he looks like his hand is a phone, holding it out like a phone.
Interesting.
Yeah, so people really thought that this guy was Phone Guy, and you guys played the first game, so I'm sure that you remember Phone Guy. He was the guy that gave you all of your directions and tutorials. Yeah. He said that he was going to see you on the flip side, and Matthew Lillard also said that in the movie. He said, catch you on the flip side, which is really cool. Yeah, so there's a lot of references to that particular theory, which I love. That was like the first big theory that really made FNAF, I think, just huge,
Yeah,
ginormous.
I
The
remember.
purple guy is Foam
Foam
guy.
Guy, yeah.
And we didn't have any names for any of these characters yet. It's so much
Just
fun.
purple guy.
Yeah. So there is a cold open for this movie where we see a security guard who presumably gets killed in the security office. That particular scene has been confirmed to have been the original scene that Markiplier was supposed to star in. So there's a lot of YouTuber cameos in this movie. Again, because of Scott Cawthon, we appreciate him appreciating the YouTubers who made Five Nights at Freddy's popular.
Yeah.
Markiplier was supposed to be in this beginning scene and die at the hand of the animatronics. However, he was actually filming his own movie called Iron Lung. It's also a horror movie that hopefully we'll cover on the podcast when it comes out. But he was filming at the exact same time as the Five Nights at Freddy's movie and unfortunately was not able to get the schedules to align. But hopefully that means that we'll see him in the next movie because all the fans desperately want to see him there.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Speaking of that first security officer or security guard, when Michael finds a training tape inside of the security office that helps give him further training, it says Mike on the VHS, but behind it, it says Fritz. And Fritz was actually the first character that you play in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, who was fired from the location for tampering with the animatronics and foul odor. So that was just a nice little sort of callback. Matt Pat was also in this movie, which is by far the biggest gaslighting that anybody in the fandom has ever experienced. Matt Pat said earlier this year that he was not invited while a bunch of other YouTubers were to film and have cameos for this movie, and he was not. However, as a surprise to literally everyone, our theater freaked out. Matt Pat was in this movie, and he even got to say, "It's just a theory." So that was awesome.
His catchphrase.
Yeah, his catchphrase.
Yeah.
Did he
it's
say
just
that?
a theory. Yeah. He said lunch is the most important meal of the day. And they were like, oh, what? We thought that was breakfast. And he was like, yeah, some people say that. But, it's just a theory.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
funny.
great. It was awesome. He actually said in a recent video that he made that Scott wanted him to say it in his usual tonation, which I don't know if you know Geraldine, but he goes, that's just a theory. A game theory is how he says it every single episode. So they wanted him to say, that's just a theory in the movie. But then the production people were like, that's a little too much. No,
Fair.
you need to tone it down. So he's like, it's
I like
just
the
theory.
subtleness because it's like a fun little like giving things to the fans. But to me, as just a watcher, I was like, why is everyone freaking out?
Yeah,
He's
and
just
I'm
an
just like,
actor.
woo! He
If you know,
appeared in the
you know.
movie. Yeah, he gaslit us so hard. It was awesome.
It was
really-
sad. Like you showed
yeah.
me a video earlier about him talking about it. It's like, yeah, I'm not in the movie, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's like, I was really frustrated. So these guys got to go and meet Scott Cawthon. I haven't been able to meet him in 8 years. Meanwhile, he was there on the first day of filming. He was the first scene that they filmed was with Matt Pat. So
That's
he's
really
a
funny.
liar, but I love him for it. Another cool fact is that he works at a diner called Sparky's. Sparky the dog was a popular fan hoax where a fan photoshopped their own handmade or their own personal animatronic character into the game and tried to sell it as a real secret glitch that can happen in the game. It wasn't true, but that was a nice nod from Scott for the creator of that particular hoax. And you can actually see a Sparky animatronic later in the movie too, when a bunch of people get killed.
Okay,
And that dog
interesting.
animatronic might also be a reference to Fetch from the Fazbear Frights books.
Very cool.
There's, of course, a lot of other YouTuber cameos, like Corey Kenshin being the cab driver
I
for
did
Abby
recognize
later
him.
on. And then Dalko, Fusion Z Gamer, 8-Bit Ryan, and more appear on the Employee of the Month poster outside of the security office.
That's so cool.
That is
Yeah.
cool. I didn't catch that one.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, of course, Dalko and a few other creators got to be behind the scenes and actually meet the animatronics one-on-one, which is awesome. Mike carries around a book called Dream Theory, which relates to the entire plot of the movie and is a direct reference to one of the earlier theories after Five Nights at Freddy's 4 came out, which was that everything in the first 3 games was a dream of a child who was in a coma from being bit at the original Five Nights at Freddy's location. So that was a really interesting theory that's not true, we don't think, but it was a really, really nice nod to have the entire movie basically inspired by that theory. That was
Yeah.
really awesome.
That is really cool.
Chica and Carl the Cupcake kill a character who is ironically named Carl in the script in the kitchen, like we said, which is Chica's favorite place. And Bonnie kills somebody in the supply closet. Foxy also gets to kill somebody in his iconic hallway doing his little run and doing the dum diddly dum dum ding little hum that he does. There's a scene where Foxy is searching for Abby in the arcade, which is a direct reference to the opening sequence of the Silver Eyes novel, where the main character, Charlie, is hiding from Foxy in an arcade.
Hate that.
Yeah, it was terrifying. And immediately when I saw it, I was like, that's a reference to that book.
Cool.
I know that. There's a spring lock suit that Chica tries to stuff Abby into at some point, and it was designed specifically from Scott Cawthon to look like Ella, a doll from the original, or from the third Fazbear Frights novel. And that might also be a reference to Baby, because Abby's name is an anagram of baby, and Circus Baby is a very important character later on in the sister location games and moving forward.
So I did recognize this one because I followed this person who makes like animatronic stuff, and they're making one of this character where like her entire face opens up.
Yeah.
So terrifying.
Yeah, they're spooky. So I would love to see you guys play Sister Location too. I just want you guys to play all of the games, honestly.
I remember. I love Sister Location is one of the most important ones.
It's one of the ones that has the most. It has a storyline.
Yeah,
genuinely.
when that game came out, it kind of rejuvenated my interest.
It did
in the franchise.
It's really important to the game series, and hopefully we get to see it in the movies. I would
That'd be
love
cool.
to. Yeah,
That's
so
already
cool.
a good name for a movie.
And William Afton gets to say his iconic line, "I always come back," before he gets spring locked.
Cheers in the audience.
Everybody cheered. He got to say his line. So William Afton shows up after the third FNAF game. He's pretty much present in almost every game except for Sister Location, where he's only mentioned. But he always comes back in some way or another. So it was really awesome to see him sort of come to terms with that. That means that we can almost guarantee that we're going to see Matthew Lillard in future movies, hopefully as a decaying Springlock or Springtrap, as we affectionately call the character in the games. It was also awesome to see Matthew Lillard get Springlocked, because that is a very important part of the games, is getting to see the spirits of the missing children take action against William Afton, and he gets killed in the Springlock Bonnie suit that he killed them in. But a lot of fans were worried that we weren't going to get the Springlock scene in this movie just because it's the first FNAF movie. We didn't know how much of William Afton we were going to see. But we get to see him get springlocked, and it is wild, and it is awesome, and it is great. He starts writhing, which is inspired by the pixelated sequence that we get in the games, and it's done so well. There's also a trailer, I think, for Five Nights at Freddy's 3, I believe, where you get to see him writhing in 3D that maybe I'll pull up after the episode is done so you guys can see. But they made some real good parallels with the games, and also with the Silver Eyes graphic novel, where you can see in the movie, after he gets springlocked, he gets dragged away into a supply closet by all of the animatronics, which is exactly what happens in the graphic novel for the Silver Eyes, is he gets springlocked and dragged away. So that was just really cool. I like how they kind of mesh things together here, and how they do an homage to not just the games, but also the novels. At the end of the credits, we hear an Atari voice spell out the word, "Come find me." So we don't know if that's William Afton saying "come find me," or maybe a potential future character that we haven't gotten seen. So we're super excited to see where that goes. And there's just a bunch more Easter eggs that I am not even going to cover, because this has gone on for too long already.
No, you're fine.
But I did have a couple of closing questions for you guys before we end. What did you guys think was the scariest part of the movie?
Balloon Boy.
Balloon Boy. Yeah, you screamed. He screamed genuinely the first time Balloon Boy showed up, because he's another cameo in this movie. It's a jump scare, I would argue, our only real jump scare in the movie. And
But he did it like at least twice.
yeah, he did it twice. In a mid-credit scene, he also shows up. But Frankie just jumped and screamed.
Because it was scary.
Multiple times. It was
scary.
hilarious.
It was awesome. I loved it.
You think you would have learned by the first time, but no. It just got funnier each time.
What about you, Jared?
Yeah.
The scariest part, I would dare say it is probably just like them moving on their own and stuff. And I'm like, no.
I was expecting one of you to say like, oh, when Foxy's running down the hallway, oh, when Freddy chomps down on that girl. Literally
that was so cool to look at.
It was so well
done.
Right
before a hand just comes out, a child's hand.
That is probably the scene that's going to stick with me the most. It was just so well done.
It just looks so artful, so masterfully done.
Exactly. And now that kid's body is in there, or a kid's body is in there.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a real hand. It's like a phantom hand, but the kid's actual body's in that animatronic. That's wild.
Yeah. I think actually the scariest part of the movie is like knowing the story.
Yeah.
I mean, just the story behind it all is just so messed up.
It's messed up. It's a realistic one.
Yeah.
Like about children being kidnapped.
Yeah. And then just murdered for no reason.
Yeah, I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
So it's awful. But it makes you want to watch the movies, I feel like, and find out the story about why did this happen.
Yeah.
Will they ever be free from this living hell that they're stuck in?
This movie is so surface level. We don't know why Afton's done it. We don't know about Afton's family. We don't know what's going on.
Exactly, yeah. I have questions.
We think that we have lore from the games and the books that tell us a little bit more of why, but nothing's set in stone, so the movies can have some room to sort of figure it out as they go, which I really appreciate, actually. Was there a part that made you guys laugh the most, or that you enjoyed the most in general?
A couple of Corey Kenshin's jokes.
Yeah.
They cracked me up.
Corey Kenshin was a great addition. I'm really glad that he got to have a speaking role.
I'm glad as well, because my brother showed me several of his like gameplays before, so I knew he had very funny reactions. So I was like, oh, I did know that he was going to be in it, because I told my brother that I was going to go see it in theaters, and he was like, oh, did you see Corey Kenshin's going to be in it? I was like, I didn't know that. Very cool. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's like the taxi driver. So then when I saw it, I was like, okay, I know who this is. Yeah. And so he was definitely one of the greater parts of the movie. Other than that, I think, not really a laughing thing, but I was just the most shocked that Mary Stuart Masterson was in this movie. She's iconic for her movies like in the 80s.
Right?
Mm-hmm. She's iconic for movies in like the 80s. Like she was in a movie called Fried Green Tomatoes, and one of my absolutely favorite films by John Hughes called Some Kind of Wonderful. So seeing her in this movie, I was like, oh my god! First of all, she looks great for her age.
She also did a great job.
She did.
She made me hate her.
Yeah.
So that was very well done. Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, just the movie was so good. There were a lot of good laughable moments, but I think it was just fun.
Do you guys have a favorite scene?
A favorite scene, probably that kid raising his hand.
It's just so well done. Unfortunately, it was in the trailer, at least the hand reaching out. So I do think the trailers kind of put a little too much out there, but I understand why. They wanted to get people who weren't
My favorite
fans.
scene is actually them building the fort.
That was a great scene. That is a controversial scene. A lot of original fans are really upset that scene happened because it makes the kids, it makes the animatronics feel less scary. But in my opinion, I think it's a brilliant way to show that they are just kids. They're permanently kids.
A lot of people have a theory, at least that I've seen online as well, because it's everywhere on my timelines, that it was them buttering them all up to make them think that, like we're harmless, but really they're after Abby the whole time.
Potentially.
I
think it's a mix of multiple things, right? We know that Afton is technically able to influence them, but Afton didn't know that Abby existed.
Yeah.
Right?
And I also think the reason they want to kill Abby is to play with Abby.
Yeah. I think that's, again, another childlike thing is they think that they want Abby to be like them because they want an eternal friend.
Yeah.
But really, we know Afton is trying to influence them so he can get another child killed. Right? But it's really interesting how complex it is when you really think about it, but it's not overt in the movie, so it could be interpreted in multiple ways.
But yeah, overall, it was such a cute, wholesome scene.
I loved it. And then Bonnie falls over, and they're like, "Are you good?" He's like,
yeah, it was just cute.
It's so funny, and it's so cute. I really enjoy it. Do you think that there's anything that the movie could improve upon?
For me, it's simply just like I think this movie did what it needed to do.
Yeah.
I think in future iterations we can get a little more complicated with the storytelling.
I agree.
Maybe hop around a couple of different either timelines or just perspectives.
Yeah, a lot of people were thinking, or a lot of people theorized that there was actually supposed to be flashbacks of the original pizzeria as it was in the 80s and super popular, because there's some behind the scenes shots of the pizzeria filled with the animatronics moving and with actors filling up the scene and children and stuff like that. And that might have just been for the VHS training tape, but in my opinion, I think it would be really cool if they were planning on or already filmed some flashbacks to include in future movies.
I would love that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's kind of what I was gonna say. With I would love to see a future film of like Freddy Fazbear's before it all happened, or
Yeah.
as it was happening,
Yeah.
because that would be really cool to see it in
And
action.
so creepy. It would be so much as
Yes.
creepy as this movie was with the animatronics. Imagine how creepy it would be to see Afton in the yellow bunny suit luring these kids away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seeing the missing children's incident
Yeah,
happen.
happen. That would be terrifying.
It'd be very terrifying.
Yeah.
I also would just love to know more about like William Afton and like what led him to this, and like
Yeah.
to see the little girl, like his daughter, like know about this
Yeah.
and stuff, and
Yeah.
how it was impacting.
That could be a
her.
whole TV show with
It
like
could
several
be.
episodes.
It really could be.
It really could be, and I'm just curious about it because like I also want to see like the different locations and stuff, like what was happening at those other locations. Like was he just going like hopping locations? Like what was happening? I just want to know everything. So it's just,
Yeah, yeah.
it's so crazy.
I really think that this movie franchise has an opportunity to give us some really fulfilling lore information that we haven't been able to get in the books or in the games yet. Because the books and the games are kind of meant to be like a search and find, put the clues together kind of a thing. And movies can be that way, but they're also, they already seem to be kind of like,
explicit.
yeah, they have to be a little bit more explicit so the audience members can catch up
Yeah.
to what they're saying in just one showing, you know? And I really think they have an opportunity to get really deep and dark and gritty and really delve into the characters that we don't get to see as much information about in some of the earlier games.
Something that I think that I really wish I could have seen a little bit more of is him going through the cameras. I mean, that's not like that's really small because but that's just such a big part of the first game. Like you're literally just sitting in there looking at the cameras and stuff.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that would have been a lot creepier too to have it kind of set up that, you know, the animatronics are moving and he doesn't realize it.
That's a built-in jump scare too.
Yeah,
It really is. 'Cause as soon as you look at it and then they're there, and then 1 minute you look away and they're not. You're like, oh my god,
Yeah.
what? Like it's
Yeah.
just crazy and creepy. So,
But
that's
fortunately,
the only, like, thing
you
that
know,
yeah.
in future movies, looking at security cameras is important for every single game. So that means that hopefully in future movies, maybe whether we still have Mike or if we have other protagonists come up as an anthological series, hopefully we get to see a lot of security footage in the future and maybe get to see it utilized in a way where it's a little more important to the story than it was here, where they were focusing more on dreams.
Right.
They really had to show you these children so you knew the ghost children were possessing the characters and so on and
Right.
so forth. But now that we know that, we should be able to skip ahead and just be like, look at these creepy animatronics on the cameras, you know? And then my last question for you guys is, who's your favorite animatronic?
So we got 5 to pick from.
Yeah.
For me, I gotta say it's Golden Freddy.
Yeah, that was the only character that I didn't talk about because he's not technically an
Is that the one
animatronic.
that came to get Abby from the house?
Yeah.
Like, he was creepy as hell.
He was very creepy. So you guys actually saw Golden Freddy on your playthrough, which you
We
can watch
did.
on YouTube. You guys saw it on your first playthrough, which is crazy. It's crazy rare to see Golden Freddy, but he is one of the biggest mysteries of the entire franchise. And at this point in time, from what we can tell, he is possessed by the little blonde-haired kid.
Okay.
And a lot of the times, the spirit that takes control of Golden Freddy is referred to as the one he should not have killed, and is well known to be very aggressive towards Afton, and in a way might even keep Afton alive because they want Afton to suffer. That's kind of the idea of the character. We don't know for sure if that's what's happening, but that's kind of implied from what we can tell in the games. So it's really interesting to see his character in the movie and how ambivalent he is. Like, he seems to understand that Afton is the bad guy, but none of the other animatronics know that because he tells you up front, like, oh, they don't remember what happened. Obviously, we don't see the physical Golden Freddy animatronic until right there at the end, where he shows up at Abby's house, which is really weird. And so there's a lot of questions there.
Yeah, and when Abby turns back to look at him after they're already there at the location,
he disappears.
Yeah.
I
hate
noticed
that.
I also noticed when Abby is playing with the animatronics for the first time, you know, Mike is freaking out because he just had a dream where he was talking to the little blonde-haired kid, and, you know, the blonde-haired kid leaves, and Mike wakes up and finds Abby playing with the animatronics, and he's freaking out. But I realized in that particular dream, only the gold-haired child was there. None of the other animatronics were, or the other children were, because they were playing with Abby. But he was the only one not playing with Abby because Golden Freddy wasn't there.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
okay.
that was pretty interesting to me. But who's yours?
Favorite? I really like Chica.
I also really like Chica. I love Chica.
I think it's just also the Carl cupcake thing. It's just kind of cute because she's already got
Yeah.
that let's eat kind of bib on.
Yeah,
Love that.
So
yeah.
it's just perfect.
It's all about the food. I love
pizza.
Chica. Yeah.
I also love food, so I'm with the Chica.
yeah.
I get it.
I like all of them, man. I don't know. It's probably a toss up between Chica and Foxy
Yeah,
for
Foxy's
me.
the creepiest for me. I don't like Foxy just because he's creepy, but like
He's kind
I
of
also-
goofy to me.
I think it's just creepy that he's just like whenever he's like on his way out.
Yeah.
Of the thing, I'm
Yeah,
like,
he just runs.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Like playing the video game and seeing him run down the hallway when you go to that screen, immediately go to lock the door.
It's terrifying. I love all of them though. They're all great. I really appreciate them. And of course, I don't know if it counts, but Springtrap. I love that guy.
Springtrap.
Yeah, he's spooky. He's scary. Okay, but
yeah, that's creepy. He's one of the creepiest. As soon as he walked out, I was like,
Oh,
ugh.
he kind of has to duck a little bit to get into the room.
yeah, the way that he walks out and he's like, "Ooh, who do we have here?" is so freaky. It's so well done. Matthew Lillard does a great job
Yeah.
at being creepy, at being
He's
anything
always been
really.
great on it.
Yeah, he really has. So it was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it.
I did.
Despite varying levels of understanding the lore.
But that's okay because
Yeah.
I mean I feel like the surface level stuff is also fine because you can grow, like you have room to grow. If I were really that curious to delve into it, I would watch all the Matt Pat videos. But
Yeah.
I also kind of like the mystery behind it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
So
you know, I think overall, if you don't know anything about this movie, you can go into it. Even if you watched this video or this podcast, you can probably go into the movie and enjoy yourself and have a lot of questions that were not answered in the movie.
oh yeah.
And have a lot to look forward to for future sequels, which Emma Tammy and Jason Blum have both said that they're very excited to potentially do sequels if it performs well, which it did perform well, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah, just opening weekend.
Yeah,
Crazy.
just opening weekend, Matthew Lillard was signed on for 3 different FNAF movies, including this one.
Damn.
Emma Tammy said that she would love to direct future installments, and Jason Blum even stated that he hopes to make a bunch more. So
Oh.
maybe even more than 3 movies.
Yeah.
We'll see. Hopefully we get all the way up to the Pizzaplex.
That'd be awesome.
I think it would be awesome.
I
I
would
want to
just
see
say-
Sister Location. I want to see the Pizzaplex. I want to see all of
I
it.
want to see that creepy ass doll, like for sure, because
Yeah.
she is terrifying. As soon as they showed her
Talking
in the
about
movie,
Baby?
yeah,
Yeah.
when they showed her in the movie, I was like, "Ooh, she's creepy. I don't like her. I
Yeah.
don't like her."
All of the animatronics in Sister Location do that weird face thing.
Oh,
All
I
of
don't
them
like
do.
that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And you get up close and personal with a couple of them.
Yeah, the
No!
game is hard to play.
Yeah.
Like, you know, in the FNAF game we played, it's all that security camera thing.
Uh-huh.
And that one, you have to, like, fix one of them
Yeah, you have to get up and close.
right in front of them.
Oh my god.
And in the game after that, you find a bunch of defunct, like, they've been scrapped, essentially, so they're missing parts and they're all gross and grody looking. You get them, and you have to be up close and personal with them, too.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, FNAF 6.
Oh man. It means we'll have to play them. So that makes
Yeah, you guys will.
sense. Okay.
I'm excited to watch you guys play. But that pretty much wraps up our episode. Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, thank you guys for catching us. We're on social medias at Fright Flight Pod.
Yes.
Check out our new channel, Fright Risk, where we'll be uploading scripted videos.
We'll also be doing live streams. We actually have something right next to you, Frankie, to kind of give people a precursor of what's to come on Fright Risk. We will be doing a unboxing of Dead by Daylight, the board game, a gameplay of it, and we'll even walk you through how to play it yourself at home if you are interested in buying it.
That's right. We're going to be featuring gameplay So like Five Nights at Freddy's
Yeah,
gameplay.
maybe I can convince them to play the Five Nights at Freddy's games on live stream there.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. So, but that's all for me. I don't have anything else to say. I've chatted enough for this episode, you know.
Yeah, thanks everybody for catching us.
Thanks for catching us. Keep watching and finish the year out with our holiday horror special episodes. They're super fun. We'll catch you next time, I guess.
Yeah, see you
Bye-bye.
later. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.